I'm from the University of Tampa, and it is my pleasure to introduce to each of you an internationally renowned entrepreneur, mentor, and the gentleman who brought us the Priceline Negotiator. He is well known as founder and CEO of the Priceline.com family of companies. Having led his companies, Priceline.com, Ubid.com, CTI, just to name a few, through acquisitions and public offerings, this gentleman was inducted into the CEO Hall of Fame for his lifetime achievement in entrepreneurship. This entrepreneur has no plan of slowing down. Currently, he is a partner and co-founder in RightTurn.com, a new e-commerce company launching in 2012. He is also co-founder and partner at ColorJar, which is the idea accelerator that helps entrepreneurs launch and grow their business. As if that weren't enough, he has also produced feature films, Cabin Fever, hosted music tours and concerts, all while sponsoring charity events. In addition to his achievements, he also serves on the board of both business and non-for-profit in the US, Europe, Asia, and Africa. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Jeff Hoffman, founder and CEO of Priceline.
All right, so entrepreneurial rule number one is nothing ever goes as planned, which means you have to be able to wing it. I put together a PowerPoint for you guys, but we don't have the technology to show it. So I'll stand here at the podium and take you guys through what I wanted you to see, but I'm going to have to try to maybe describe. I got some great photos, but I'll laugh at them and you guys can just sit there quietly. You know, what I wanted to do today, and I got to tell you, this morning I went through, first of all, I was here 2 years ago when I was inducted here at CEO, so I got a familiarity, and I've known Katie and Jerry for a few years now and sort of stayed abreast of everything you're doing at CEO. But the bottom line is I was thrilled, even though I said I was just here a couple of years ago, you probably don't want to hear me again, when Katie said, why don't you come back? And the reason is, you guys, the energy level. So I came in yesterday, and I spent yesterday and today just hanging out with a bunch of you and talking about entrepreneurship. And it's phenomenal to be with groups of people who are energetic, interested, passionate. When we were sitting in the mentor room yesterday, we went way past the break and nobody got up. And I would have sat there as long as you guys would, but we had to go to breakout sessions to respect other speakers. But I love the energy level and the interest level. And I actually came back today and completely rewrote this presentation based on what I heard you guys, what interested you, the kinds of questions that I got. So what people asked me mostly about was the entrepreneurial journey, right? And the process of becoming one, and why, and what keeps you going, and things like that. So what I did was I put together instead, I'm going to tell you guys a few stories about the journey, because that seemed to be what most people were asking. And I want to start by saying it was really interesting. Just this year, for the first time ever, I got a call from a high school. And they said, hey, can you come to Career Day? And I was like, you dialed the wrong house, okay? And they said, no, we want you to come to Career Day. And I said, I've been to Career Day. When I went to school, it's doctors and nurses and lawyers. And they said, well, we want an entrepreneur to come. And it was interesting. I said, have you ever invited entrepreneur as a Career Day ever before? And they said, no, this will be the first time. And it was very interesting it made me think about the fact. In fact, when I went there, I felt like crap in 2 minutes, because the first dude I met was an astronaut. Only he really was an astronaut. I was going to be one my whole childhood. And then I walked up to the guy and said, what do you do? He goes, go around space. I was like, bye-bye. I can't possibly compete with that. But it was interesting, because when they said, talk about entrepreneurship is a career, I thought about something. My whole career, I was a total misfit. Okay? I did not have CEO. I did not have chapters. I did not have faculty people sitting at the tables with you, anybody to say that entrepreneurship was okay. What I had was people that were born and raised to believe you graduate college and you go for the better the brand name of the company, the better for your career, I guess. You try to get hired by a brand name, well-known company, and in the process of doing that, that's where you spend your career. And that's what people did. So what my friends said all the time was, Jeff is unstable. I was unstable because I was always doing something different. So I kind of spent my life apologizing, right? What are you doing now? Oh, you know, somebody bought that company, we're doing another one. I was like, geez, can you not finish something? I said, we finished it, somebody bought the company. And they're like, you were doing something completely different last year. And I said, I was. I was always apologizing for the fact that every few years I was working on a different problem, because I didn't know this word entrepreneur. I didn't know what I was. I thought I was an unstable guy because everybody called me that, and I wasn't doing anything the way I was supposed to or what everybody else was doing. And one day, it kind of occurred to me that it's entirely possible, hang on one sec, I'm going to pull these notes up. It's entirely possible that I'm doing exactly what I want to be doing. Instead of thinking that it's wrong to work on something different all the time, maybe it's okay. Okay, it took me a long time to realize when I heard about entrepreneurs, I said, wait, there are people who go out in the world, solve a problem. When they do, they go solve another one. And I suddenly realized that I was a misfit, but what I was doing was not, here's what people thought. That you're unstable, you can't keep a job, you can't stay focused on anything. You're always working on something different. The point is, I wanted to always work on something different. I just didn't know it was okay to be an entrepreneur. So I want to talk about that a little bit, and I'll tell you guys sort of where my initial drive from that came from, and I'm going to tell you this story. And for those of you who've heard me speak before, I apologize, you're going to hear this again, but these are questions people were asking me the last 2 days here. So I was 10 years old. I went to my best buddy's house, Mike's house. And I'm at Mike's house, and all the guys are in Mike's bedroom. And they're all staring at a poster on the wall. So I go in there to see what's the big, oh, Jeff, you got to see this. This is so cool. So I go into the room, and there's a poster of a Ferrari, which I don't even know what that is, okay, 10 years old. There's also a hot blonde in a bikini sitting on the hood of it, but we were 10. In fact, I remember one of my buddies going, ooh, gross, her butt is on the car, okay? So it wasn't the girl. It was the car. But I didn't get it, the fascination. So I went home and I said, Mom, I got to ask you a question. And she said, what? And I said, what is the big deal about this poster? And she said, what was it? And I said, it was this thing called a Ferrari. And my mom said, oh, the reason they're all fascinated by it is because it's unattainable. And she explained to me what that meant. And I said, so they're not real? She said, of course they're real. I said, do they build these cars? And she said, yes. And I said, somebody drives them? And she said, yes, son, but not you. And I said, wait, but why not me? And she said later, by the way, in her defense, she said, I was just trying to protect you from unrealistic expectations, not discourage your dreams. But I said, Mom, I don't get it. Somebody drives this car. And she said, yes. And I said, so why is that not me? And she said, your friends are fascinated because it's something they'll never have. And I couldn't get over that. At 10, I was trying to understand, if this thing is some ultimate dream for somebody, somebody's driving it, why is it not me? So one of the questions that I never let go of, that you never should let go of, is why not me? Okay, from way back when, I looked at big goals, and I always looked at them and said, wait, why not me? It wasn't why me, it was why can't I be? Somebody climbs that mountain, somebody launched that company, somebody drives that car. And even though the world was telling me, not you though, you'll never achieve that, I began to think, what is the difference? This bothered me at like 10. And as I got older, I started thinking, what is the difference between me and whoever drives that car, right? Why are they there and I'm not? And it was interesting, just for the heck of it, when I was 16, I was cleaning my closet and I found that poster again. And I was standing there looking poster, my mom walked in and said, oh, you looking at that car again? And I looked for a few more seconds and I said, what car? I found the girl. My mom turned to me and she goes, son, and I said, what? And she said, you'll never have that either. Okay? So I said, Mom, one more question. And she said, what? And I said, if I had the car, she said, son, if you had that car, you'd probably have that girl. I said, all right, Mom, I just want to make sure the world is sane. Okay? But it was never about the car. What it was about was, what is the relationship between setting big goals, working really hard, and achieving your dreams? And I just couldn't get convinced that I couldn't do that. What is different about that person? So early on, I started to say, maybe the formula is this. I need to have big dreams, right? If your dream is, randomly, if your dream is to drive a Ferrari one day, forget about the car. It's not about material things. That's not my point. My point is, if your dream is to drive that car and that's what you're working for, even if you wind up a level below that, you wind up way ahead of the person whose goal from the beginning was way down here. Okay? So I figured if I dream big and I work really hard, and then I started to think, I started to study a little bit. When I saw successful people, what does success mean? Why do people call them successful? What did they do that I didn't do? And I started to see the relationships. These were people in the world that created value. There seemed to be a common thing. All these people, you could point at something they'd done to make the world better or to create some innovation, new idea. They finished something, they built something, they created something. Every one of them had a story. Even if your answer, if you were an artist, you created music that moved the world. That's why you were, again, remember guys, this isn't about a car, it's about cause and effect. That's why they were driving that car. So I want to tell you that because everything I have ever done, I started. Remember, the whole time I wanted to be an entrepreneur, I was feeling like a misfit, right? Because I was going to go create things on my own, and everybody else was saying, why don't you just get a job? What's wrong with you? And what's wrong with me was I was an entrepreneur. But I started to get that sense, and I want to say that, you know, all through my life, all my goals, everything I set out to do, I never ever set out. I mean, no one ever asked at the end of the Super Bowl, who finished second that year? Who lost that game? Nobody really cares. I was pretty sure that if I wanted to achieve my goals, I needed to find something I could win at, something I could work hard and be good at, and something I could create that later I would be that guy, that person, that girl, that somebody that created value in the world that people could see and recognize and were willing to pay for. And again, not about the money piece, but I sort of understood the relationships between these kinds of things. So some of the things that we've done, I mean, I got to be honest, when we created, I had on my wall for years, go big or go home. I wrote on the wall, because life is short. And in fact, I got reminded that a few years ago, my best friend drowned in the Irish Sea in his 30s, a totally freak thing. And I woke up the next morning, you know what he used to say to me all the time? It'd be Tuesday, and he'd say, Jeff, let's go do this. And I'd say, Michael, we'll go this weekend. And he said, when? I said, we'll go Saturday. And he goes, what if there's no Saturday? And I said, Michael, there's always Saturday. We'll talk to it later. We're busy right now. Well, one day I woke up, and it was the last Saturday ever. Because they called me and said, we can't find your best friend. He's in the Irish Sea somewhere. He went out swimming and never came back. And that day I realized there isn't always another Saturday. Whatever it is you set out to do, use every day of your life wisely towards your goal, not towards something. If you're doing something that isn't taking you anywhere, why are you doing it? So that being said, the go big, go home thing, I really set my goals. For example, you know, I always dreamed that one day, my answer to could you create on a little table with a handful of people a multi-billion-dollar company, again, not about money, it's about chasing a big dream and achieving it. I mean, we were clearly very blessed with, Priceline was my 5th startup that I was involved in. But you know, today, Priceline was started by a handful of people on a table, a card table, the first meeting. And today, it's a company worth about $33 billion with 100 million customers in 46 countries. I never didn't think I could do that. But let me tell you one of the best things that I had going for me, a lesson you should learn. You know what I think enabled me to do that? Because it didn't matter to me if I didn't. Does that make sense to people? I was never so wed to being rich, to being successful, to being famous. None of that stuff owned me. So I was willing to set big goals because if I didn't achieve them, I could still get up the next morning and be okay. I had my friends, I had my family. The things that mattered to me were not whether I was rich or famous. If you allow goals like I'm going to get rich to own you, they will own you and they will defeat you. I never had fear because I didn't need those things to validate myself, so I went after everything fearlessly. You know, again, we set a big goal and we achieved it with that company. My very first startup, well, let me tell you, even when I went in the music business, my dream was not to be in some rundown neighborhood bar with a little musical act. I said when I'm going to get in the music business, that, you know, we set high goals, and then one day I found myself, I had these pictures just for fun, but one day I found myself on tour with NSYNC in Giant Stadium with 70,000 screaming fans, just me standing with Justin and the Five Guys, thinking, how on earth did I get here? And I can tell you how I got here. I set really high goals, and I worked really hard to get there. Not long after that, I was on stage introducing Elton John at a concert he and I were producing. Right? After that, we went and made this movie, the first little horror flick we made. We made a little scary movie called Cabin Fever. We wrote it, we shot it, I'm even in it, that's how bad it is. I financed it, we made a little movie for $1 million. That's not a lot, that's not a little bit of money, that's real money, but not for a movie. And the movie's grossed $80 million. It's on Showtime this month. Every goal we set, we went after aggressively and we set big goals, but not making it was okay. I did not have to achieve those things in order to live. And let me tell you where that really came home to me. And what I'm going to tell you is that whatever you are doing in life, do it with a passion. Be the best whatever you choose to be that you can, because life is short. And your odds of achieving big goals are 0 if you're not giving it everything you have. In fact, I always tell young entrepreneurs, there is no shame in life in failing. Everybody has failed. Recently, I did an event where I spent the day, I was on stage with Donald Trump. And Trump said to me, did I ever tell you about my 3 bankruptcies? And I said, 3 bankruptcies? And he said, Jeff, 3 of my companies failed so miserably I had to declare bankruptcy. And I said, interesting, because that's not people's impression of Donald Trump. Right? You think of the successes. And he said everything doesn't work. It doesn't work. Everybody has those failures along the way. But the shame in life is not failing. The shame in life is not trying. Okay? That's what's shameful. You can live with failure. You cannot live the rest of your life without giving it your best, with not trying. If you think that you have the next great whatever. In fact, here's what I would see. When I first briefly went into corporate America, I'm going to tell you that story in a minute. Friends of mine would every Friday would sit there and say, man, I hate this job, I'm quitting. Next week is it. Next month is it. This year is it. Or they would have an idea. I'm going to go launch this thing. I got this idea. I'm going to launch a company. And every week they were still sitting there. Still sitting on the couch, launching nothing and quitting nothing. And I realized why. It was the fear of failure. Okay? And I started thinking one day, there's something way worse than failing. And that's spending the rest of your life sitting on the couch thinking you might have been able to. You know what's even worse? One day, one of the guys pointed at the TV. Some guy was getting recognized for his fame and fortune. And he said, oh my God, that was my idea. And I said, right. And the 2 years you sat here talking about the idea and did nothing, that guy got off the couch. So one of my presentations starts with, in giant letters, I write, get off the couch. Right? The first step towards any journey. The difference between you and the people you see on TV. And you know what you're using as an excuse? You see so-and-so getting some award and you say, well, she's smarter than me. She had money, she had relationships, she had advantages. No, she didn't. Here's what I can tell you many years later, having met some of the smartest and most successful people in the world and spent time with them personally. I walk away, and excuse me for saying this, but I've walked away from very famous, successful people and said, whoa, seriously, if that moron can do it. Okay? These people are not smarter than you. And I met him, and I was like, wait, he isn't even that bright at all. Yet he's really successful. So I started saying, what is it that those people did that everybody else didn't? They had no fear of failing, and they went for it. They got up, they took the first step, and they launched. Okay, there's some other things that are common to them that I want to talk about, which is something drove them. Not only did they not have a fear, but they didn't want to sit on the couch the rest of their life wondering what could have been if they ever could have launched that company or built that product. But something else drove them that I noticed, and I want to talk about that for a minute. And that's having a purpose in your life besides just I can't stand it when people say, I'm going to launch this company, I'm going to be an entrepreneur so I can get rich. Because guess what happens? When you launch things, you have ups and downs, right? And if all you're in it for is to make money, and you hit the down spot, and you hit the part where it looks like no one's going to buy your product, you got licensing issues, you got service issues, it doesn't look like you're going to make a dime. If all you're in it is for the money, you will quit right then. No money on the table, I'm out of here. That's what I was there for. So what you need is something that drives you. And I'm going to tell you my story. I was in my 20s. I launched my first startup. It was a software company. I had no idea what I was doing, okay? I knew one thing, go hire people smarter than you because you are not as smart as you think you are. No matter how successful you are still not as smart as you think you are, and guess what? You never will be. The list of things that you do not know is way longer than the list of things you know. So the first thing you need to do is check your ego and get over yourself and go find people smarter than you to be your teammates. Some people don't do that because they're like, if I hire her, she's smarter than me. She's going to make me look bad. No, she's going to make you win. You're going to have the best players on your team, and your team's going to win. And you can sit back and say, yeah, I found her. That's why we're winning, because I built this team. People a lot of times don't get that. A lot of you today and yesterday asked me the equity question. People told me to hold tight to it. And I'm going to tell you, I don't agree with that at all. I'm not talking about investor deals. I'm talking about finding how smart she is and giving her a piece of the company so she is in the trenches fighting with you, so you're all in it together. It is a really important point. But let me tell you what happened. So I went out to build this first company. I hired really smart people for my first software company, CTI. I'm in my 20s. I'm hiring people in their 30s and 40s. One time, one of the guys knocks on my door. He's 40 years old. And he goes, yeah, how do we do this? And I was like, dude, really? You think I know? And he said, Jeff, you founded the company. It was your idea. And I said, let me try that again. You think I know? And he said, I did think you know. And I said, what do you think I hired you for? If I knew all the answers, I wouldn't have hired you guys. You're way smarter than me at your area. We're all playing a position on a team. Do not think as a founder and a CEO that you need to know how to do everything, because you know why? You can't anyway. You need to find people smarter than you to do it. So we built a really smart team. And I spent my time hiring really good people. In fact, one day, this was kind of a funny story, but now I tell people, they say, what's a CEO's job? And I say, to build the company where the best people in the industry want to work and then go pick up their dry cleaning. And the reason I got this story is we had a war room set up and we had a product to deliver, and I had all these really sharp people in this room working on the product, and I'm the CEO, founder, and owner. But I walk down the hall and there's this like 19-year-old kid, new programmer, is in the room. He doesn't even know who I am. He doesn't know I own the company, the CEO, or anything like that. And I said, how's it going? And they said, great, we're kicking butt in here. The product is looking great. And I said, anything I can do for you guys? And the youngest kid in the company said, yeah, go get my dry cleaning. Well, all the people in the room kind of stopped and looked at him, and he's like, what? And they were thinking, you know, you can't say that to the CEO of the company. And I said, where's the ticket? And they said, you're going to get his dry cleaning? And I said, he is creating a product that is going to make all of us successful. I will pick up his dry cleaning, I will walk his dog while he creates this product, whatever I got to do to make a place where he wants to work. And the ultimate compliment I would get is I would walk down the hall and I would hear people say, no, I understand it's more money, I don't want the job. I'd hear people turn down jobs. And they would say, I get that, but I love working here. And I could hear them saying why. Well, they make me feel valued, they respect me, they recognize the work. I was like writing all this stuff. I said, I must have done that without realizing it. But I started to understand that building a place where the best people in the world, a lot of you asked me this weekend, how do I build a team? I'll tell you how. You build a place where people who could work anywhere want to work with you. You listen to them, you ask them how you can achieve their goals. I had an employee who said to me, I said, what are you doing this for? He said, my life's goal is to buy my mom a house. We grew up poor in a trailer. So you know what I would do all the time when times were tough? I would walk in and he'd say, what are you doing? And I would say, building the hallway to your mom's house right now. And he totally got that, because I was focused on helping him achieve his dream. When you go to hire somebody and they say, what can I do? You know, what do you want? And I say, I want Katie to work 4,000 hours a week so I can get a new boat. Boy, that's really motivating to her, isn't it? So something drives everybody. So back to this story. The company worked. We started doing business all over. We were an Inc. fastest growing company. Revenue growth was 1,200% a year, which of course is easier when you're new. We were making money. Everything was going great. And a big company, American Express, came and bought the company. They came in one day with people that their suits were worth more than my entire wardrobe, one guy's suit in there. Big, you know, the big corporate merger guys, I don't even know what language they were speaking. And they came in one day and they said, we want to buy your company. Honestly, I didn't want to sell the company because I loved going to work every day. In fact, I just got interviewed for a book a guy's writing, you know the phrase TGIF. That phrase came from the American workplace. Thank God it's Friday came from employees who can't wait to get out of work on Friday, which you shouldn't live to work. But I just did an interview for a new book coming out called Can't Wait Till Monday. And his point was, what if you could like both? What if you could have a great time with your friends on the weekend and love going to work on Monday? And I realized I was in that mode. Life was good. I love the people I work with. I love the projects. I love the customers. We're getting paid. What would I do tomorrow if I sold the company? But these people thought I was a good negotiator. And they were winking at me going, oh, we get it. You want more money. And I was like, what part of I don't want to sell the company is confusing? And they're like, boy, you sure are tough. And I was like, these people are morons. I don't want to sell the company. So they kept going back and getting more. And one day they came in with an offer. And I said, really, you guys have brain damage if you think this company is worth this. And they said, that's an unusual negotiating technique. And I said, sorry if honesty offends you, but I can't believe you'd pay this. And they said, do you want it or not? And I said, now I'd probably be, and now I'm the idiot if I don't take this. So I sold the company. And what happened was, 20-something years old, never driven by money, very driven by freedom, by the way, because I did not want to work at the environment I was in. I'll tell you a story about that in just a second. But the next day, so it's like winning the lottery. The next day, I'm 20-something years old, and I sold my company for millions of dollars. Now I got money in the bank I didn't have the day before. I was perfectly happy without that money, right? And I didn't know. So I go that next weekend, I go out to dinner with all my friends. We do this every other Saturday thing. And we get to dinner, and my friends are all, you know, I said, look, you guys have put up with a lot. I work really long hours. They all work at companies. And you guys have been really good friends. Can I buy dinner? It's dinner. I'm not buying someone a boat, okay? I just want to buy dinner. So people that I've been friends with for years turned to me and said, we don't need your charity. We can buy our own meals. We have jobs. Just spitting venom at me. And I said, well, guys, I was just saying thank you. Yeah, we get it. You have money now and we don't. So I was like, wow, what happened? All right? It's the mo money, mo problems was real and fast, okay? So I tried to shake that off, tried to brush that off my shoulder. That didn't work. 2 weeks later, we go out, and the bill comes, and I'm not about to make that mistake again. So I said, what's my share? And they said, oh, man, we'll get a calculator and get it to the penny because we wouldn't want to touch your precious money. And I said, wait, if I try to buy dinner, I'm a jerk. If I only pay my share, I'm a jerk. I said, what do you guys want from me? And they said, Jeff, you just don't understand. I said, seriously, 2 weeks ago, we were best friends, and 2 weeks later, I don't understand my friends? And they're like, forget it. And they stormed out. So I called my dad, and I said, you know what? Kind of wish I had never made any money, because now everybody hates me. And I was much happier the day before. And I guess you could buy things, but things don't replace your friends, right? And it was really bothering me. So I went home and I turned the news on. I felt bad about being successful. I achieved my goal, and here I feel like crap, and everybody hates me. That is not what I was thinking was going to happen. So I turned the TV on, and it's a news story. And on this news story, there are all these women in tears. So I stopped the channel, and I was like, what's going on? And I listened, and it's a battered women's shelter. And they're closing it because they haven't paid their rent in 3 months. And they're all crying. And I did what everybody else did, right? I said, wow, I hope they do something. I hope someone helps them, okay? And then the news reporter said, coming up next, sports, right? Because that's the world we live in. All these women are crying. They said to the one woman, what will you do now? And she said, I guess I'll go back to the guy that broke all my ribs and put me in the hospital in the first place. And the reporter said, that doesn't sound very smart. And she said, okay, then I'll just go lay in the street with my 3 kids. She said, those are my choices. Go back to him or go to the street. And then the woman said, coming up next, sports. And I was like, holy crap, someone needs to do something. And then I changed the channel to watch sports, and I stopped. And I thought this, and in fact, I wrote on my wall at work the next day, there is no they. And what I meant by that is all of us listen to things in the world, and we say, I hope they do something. Well, guess what I was thinking? If everybody reacted the way I did, if everybody hoped they helped those women, who would help those women? Nobody, because we all said, I hope they do. So a thought occurred to me. I could be they. I could be the person that does something in the world. And so I called the news station. I got all the info. I went to the bank the next day. And this was sort of comical because I was in jeans and tennis shoes, and I took a duffel bag. And I said, do me a favor, fill this. And they said, security, drug dealer. And I was like, do I look like a drug dealer? And they're like, well, something wrong here. And I said, they're like, some 20-year-old kid is asking for a bag full of money. And I said, honest, seriously, it's actually mine. And the bank person's going, it's his, right? If it's his money, he can have it. So I took this cash. I drove back down there. I parked down the street. I walked down there. I went into this house. I got this lady. And I said, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? And she said, to make fun of us? Can you not see we're having a bad enough time here? I said, I'm not trying to make fun of you. She said, everybody's in here to take pictures of the crime and tell the great story of how they're going to get beat up again. I said, I'm not here to do that. She said, then what do you want? And I said, in this bag, the result of my hard work, I realized at that moment, in this bag is all your back rent, and I paid your entire next year's rent and all your utility bills. I said, take this money and go down there and pay for the whole next year. And she burst into tears, went hysterical, screaming to all the women, stop packing, we can stay, we can stay. I ran out and climbed over the fence, and I was telling some of the people yesterday, the fence looked way smaller when I started running. So I had like 3 attempts to get over the fence. What's that? Some fat guy trying to climb the fence? I eventually got over there, ran down the alley, went back to my car. I turned the news on that night. And guess what I saw? All the women were crying again, but they were crying for joy. And they were saying, I don't know, some guy just came in here and gave us the money. Like, why would someone do that? Because everybody changed the channel for coming up next sports. Somebody had to do something. Do you know what happened to me? I realized something. Making money is not bad as long as you are doing something bigger than yourself. So what I realized was, not only did I not feel bad the next day about going to work and starting another one and making more money, but I couldn't wait because somewhere down the street is another house that I can help. So what I am telling you is lead a life of purpose. Something in your life you have to be passionate about. Care about something bigger than yourself, and your work, you will find success for a totally different reason. If all I cared about was money, I don't think I would have launched. Priceline was our 5th company. We sold multiple companies. We took that one public. It was the third largest IPO in stock market history. We were the fastest company from 0 to $10 billion in US history. I like to think that a lot of it was we were enthusiastic. We were purpose-driven. We had a reason to try to be successful, and we cared about what we were doing. So I'm going to challenge you guys to not focus on launching a company to make money. Focus on what your goal is. What are you going to do with your life? What matters to you? When you look back, what do you want people to say about you? Do you want them to say, boy, that guy made a lot of money? Boy, that girl had 3 houses. I don't think so. I think what you want is somebody to say, he made a lot of other people's lives better. What you want to be judged by is how many other people's lives you improved along the way. Why entrepreneurship? Because it is the fastest path I know for you to be able to make your own money and decide what you want to do with it. It's a path for you to be able to directly impact people and solve problems. So I was never more excited to be an entrepreneur than when I found out I could change the world in positive ways by working hard and being successful. I just want to tell you one more quick story. Am I okay? All right. About my sort of entrepreneurial journey, and then I'll stop. When I went back to this job, so before I did all this, I'm at my corporate job. My boss comes and gets me one day, and he's like, Jeff, come here a minute. And we're in a sea of cubicles, a room like this, and he takes me to the window. And everybody's looking. You know, the prairie dog, you guys haven't worked in cubicles, but prairie dogging is when the people pop up and then go down in their cubicle. And I see all my friends are prairie dogging because the boss is getting me. He takes me to the window, and he goes, son, you want to get ahead in this company? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, you know, there's a promotion coming up, and I have to decide who to give it to. You want that promotion? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I decide who gets promoted next. And this was my one corporate job out of school. And I'm not telling you right or wrong, I'm just telling you it's a DNA thing. I couldn't live in this environment. Anyway, he said to me, what do you see out that window? And I'm looking, and it's like the parking lot, so it must be a trick question. And I was like, cars? And he goes, that's right. And I'm like, yeah, I got the first one. And all my friends are like, go, dude, go. And then he looks, they all go back down again, right? And he's like, so every night, late in the day, at the end of the day, I come to this window and I look out here. And he said, what do you think I'm looking for? And I'm like, this is definitely a trick question. But I'm 1 for 1, so I'm like, cars? And he goes, yes. And my friend's like, yeah, everybody's clapping. I'm 2 for 2. And a quiz, I have no idea what on earth we're talking about, okay? But I got both of them right. And he said, do you know why I look at these cars? And I said, no, sir. And he said, this is how I decide who's going to get the next promotion. I look to see whose car is here last. And he said, I want to know who is most dedicated to this company. That's who's going to get this promotion. And I was like, wait, what if they're the stupidest employee and they can't do their work? Dead silence. And I said, what if they're just so behind that they have to stay late? And I finished on time. Dead silence. And I was like, okay. And then he said, so, son, have you learned something here today? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, what did you learn? And I said, I'm going to buy 2 cars and just leave one here. And he turned and glared at me, and everybody laughed. And he turned and glared at them. And he said, I suppose you think that was funny. And I said, in all fairness, sir, that was sort of funny. And he just stormed off, and all my friends are doing this. My career is over, okay? I accepted that. 2 weeks to that day, I just quit because there's no way I was getting around that if that was the criteria. Not the value that I created in the world, but how long my car was in the parking lot. So I thought entrepreneurship is a career where there's a direct correlation between the value you create and the compensation you get. And I don't just mean money. It doesn't matter if you are black, white, any ethnicity, if you are male or female, if you are young or old, if you create value in the world in entrepreneurship, you reap the rewards of doing that. So I left, but I got to tell you that part real quick. I went down, I announced my resignation. I get this call from Charles. Charles is the guy at our company that everybody wants to be. This is a big company. He is the smartest guy I know in the entire world, and he's the top-ranking technical person in our whole company. Charles calls me into his office. And he says to me, I heard you're quitting. And I said, yes, sir. And he said, you're going to go be an entrepreneur. And I said, yes, sir. And he started laughing. Not the first time I've been laughed at in my life, not the last. What you guys need to learn is laughter and ridicule is gasoline for your fire. Don't take it negatively. Use it as an inspiration. Remember how it felt and drive harder the next time when you're tired and you don't feel like going anymore. Don't let people get you down. Don't let them win, but he did a pretty good job in this case. He said, so you're going to be an entrepreneur? I said, yes. And he said, because you think you're smarter than everybody else? I said, no, sir. And he said, this company's good enough for me, but not good enough for you. And I said, I didn't say that. And he said, but you're quitting. And I said, yes, sir. And he said, you will be a miserable failure as a business person. I said, sorry? and he said, you have 3 huge flaws, and you'll never succeed in business. And I was like, wow, the smartest guy I know, the highest ranking person in the company just told me I'm a complete idiot. And he said, sit down. And I was like, oh, crap, right? Now I have to hear them. And he said, I'm going to tell you the 3 reasons you'll never succeed in business. First, he said to me, he said, you have no ability to focus. He said, I've sometimes worked on the same project for 3 years, and you're always doing 10 things at once. You have a total lack of focus. You will never succeed in business. He said, second, and I'm like slinking down my chair. He said, second, he said, did your mother ever tell you when you were growing up that patience is a virtue? And I was thinking, yeah, like 40 times a day, but I'm not going to give him that. So I just didn't say anything. And he said, you're the most impatient person I've ever met. And you have to have patience. Things take time in the business world. Grow up already, right? And I was like sliding under the desk on the chair because it was so depressing. And he said, oh, wait, there's one more. And I said, what? And he said, the third reason you'll never succeed in anything in life is because you have no respect for authority. He said, there are people like me that are way older than you that have worked many more years, and you think you have a better idea in business than me? That's what he said to me. There are people that write the books and make the rules, but you think as an entrepreneur you can solve a problem better than this company can? I didn't say a word. I went home, totally depressed. I went home and sat on the couch. The smartest person I know, who is the person everybody wants to be, just told me I will never succeed in anything, and he gave me 3 solid reasons why I was a failure. I turned on the TV to my usual escape, sports, okay? I turned the sports channel on. I don't golf, but I played baseball my whole life. There is a baseball player on TV that I know with a golfer. The golfer takes the golf club. He takes a swing. He drives the ball 250 yards down the middle of the fairway. He hands the club to the baseball player, and he says, you do it. He swings the club horribly. The ball goes off in the woods. The golfer says, this is some ESPN show, he said, that's one of the worst golf swings I've ever seen. You swing in the golf club like a baseball bat. Let me show you again. He puts the ball down. He swings the club, drives another beautiful shot, hands the baseball player the club. The baseball player swings again, horrible swing, swings it like a baseball bat, and the ball goes into the sand trap like 12 feet away. And the golfer turns and says, you are a horrible golfer. Your swing is like a baseball bat. You will never be able to drive the ball down the fairway. The baseball player said, and this was an epiphany moment in my life, the baseball player said, with all due respect, sir, I lead the National League in home runs, I'm second in hitting, I'm a 6-time All-Star, and I make $20 million a year playing baseball. I'm okay with my swing. Okay? I sat bolt upright and my whole life changed. And you know why? Because here's what I realized. Charles is a golfer. I want to be a baseball player. A golfer just told me I have a horrible baseball swing. What I realized is, so what? What I need to do and what you need to do is find a baseball player, find a mentor, find somebody whose career you want yours to look like. When I got up that day, the next morning, all I could wait was to go find a baseball player. So I studied my local area and I found an entrepreneur in the community. And I bothered the crap out of him until he was either going to arrest me or have lunch with me. Luckily, he chose lunch. And he told me, I'm only meeting with you so if you promise to never call me again. You got 30 minutes. So I got lunch with this successful entrepreneur, a baseball player. I wanted him to see my swing, not Charles. I don't want his career. And here's what happened, and this is a true story. He said at the end of lunch, which went on for 2.5 hours of my 30-minute time, he said, Jeff, you're going to be a phenomenal entrepreneur. And I said, why? And get this, he said, there's 3 reasons. Okay? And I said, oh, tell me. And he said, first, you're a brilliant multitasker. And I was like, dude, yesterday I was out of focus. Now I'm a multitasker. He said, you can't be an entrepreneur if you can't multitask. He said, second, you have a natural drive to get it done now. I said, oh, really? Yesterday that was impatience. Now I have a natural drive. Entrepreneurs can't wait for solutions. They can't wait for markets. They create them. And he said, the fact that you never stop pushing will be good for you. And then he finished it the best he possibly could. And he said, third, you have no fear. He said, you can look at an industry and still think you might find a better way to do it, no matter how many years the experts have been building it. The fact that you're willing to blaze new trails and take chances is the reason you'll be successful as an entrepreneur. So I'm going to leave those 2 things with you guys today. Think about who influences you. Think about who talks to you. You guys are very lucky that you have CEO and that you have the universities that you do and that you have entrepreneurship chapters, degrees, and classes. I had none of that. I had people saying to me, what's wrong with you? You have people saying to you, you're very talented and we'll help you get there. Do not overlook that. You need to find a passion. If you are only doing this for the money, your life, I can't tell you, but I'm going to anyway, your life will probably be empty, but you won't achieve the same success you will if something wakes you up every morning. If every morning I can think of another home that I could possibly go help by working really hard, you will achieve a lot more if you have a purpose behind you. And like I said, lastly, find those people in your world whose life you want to look like and get a mentor. Emulate the people that you want to emulate. And even if people around you, by the way, everybody I know thought Priceline was the stupidest idea they'd ever heard of. You know why? Because a bunch of golfers who didn't understand the business were analyzing my baseball game. I said, thanks, I'll go talk to the actual customer, the actual baseball players, and luckily for us, today we have 100 million paying customers. Thank God we didn't listen to everybody who thought it was a dumb idea. With that, thank you guys very much for having me, and I hope this was helpful.